It's a conversation I look forward to because we have very interesting people. Let me invite them on stage right away. I invite on stage Mr. Nand Kishore, Managing Director, Ramki Estates, one of the most insight-filled builders we have, and all your questions on how to look at investing and buying, I'm sure he'll have great inputs. Also, Sandeep Patnaik, Managing Director, JLL. JLL has done incredible work in Hyderabad. We've all seen their reports. They have insights ahead of time. I'm really interested in listening to what Sandeep has to tell us today. We have Samson Arthur, who's the branch director of Knight Frank. Samson also has given us incredible insights over the years, especially on the commercial side. I am looking forward to his insights today. We have Sunil Chandra Reddy, who is Secretary General of TRADA. TRADA, the group of where all the local builders gather and discuss the road ahead. Sunil, we are really looking at insights from you. And we have Kranti Kiran Reddy, MD of Janapriya Engineer Syndicate. Kranti is a real estate firm, has done incredible work on the affordable housing side, and we will hear from him all the new insights into this space. And last but not the least, we have Ajitesh, the CEO of ASBL, who has brilliant insights into construction technology, how it's going to change our lives, how it's going to change pricing. I cannot wait to hear from you, Ajitesh. So please do come and join us on the stage. Friends, thank you. Now we will just begin. So welcome all of you. I honestly think that the quality of real estate investing in a normal person's life really depends on the quality of advice they get. So today, after the brilliant speech by the minister, we have these incredible men to share with us insights which will help us take decisions down the road. Whether you are a home buyer, an investor, whether you want to understand trends on how commercial will influence residential, and many more such interesting topics, we start. So I think I would like to start with Sandeep because of all the research that he does. Sandeep, as we had discussed, we want to understand how the city will unfold from here on. There is so much happening here. There are very few cities as interesting as Hyderabad today. So could you just share your insights? And all of you, please join in after Sandeep gives his take.
Thanks, Deepal. Being a very passionate Hyderabadi, I can tell you that everyone talks about the proactive government. There is nothing new about it, right? But see what really favors Hyderabad for next 5 to 10 years beyond proactive government, right? So when anyone wants to invest in any city, he evaluates Hyderabad with other metros. Now, if you see other metros, whether it is Chennai, every frequent flooding and frequent government changes. You talk of Bangalore, there has been some 7 chief ministers in last 11 years, bad infrastructures. You talk of Pune, there is no international airport, right? Infrastructure is not there. You talk of Delhi because of the bad pollution, right? So when you talk of investment and quality of life, beyond proactive government is a lot of tangible things which is there in Hyderabad. Proactive government, amazing infrastructure, great talent, amazing network of roads, the airport, everything works in favor of Hyderabad. Next 5 to 7 years or 10 years, the way things are happening now, Hyderabad is very close second to Bangalore. It was a distant third or fourth, in fact distant fourth few years back, but this government has changed it, now is number 2 when it comes to annual absorption of office space. Now it's close to, this year it will be 8 million, otherwise in 2019 it was 10.5 million and Bangalore is 12 million, whereas in 2014 when this present government came it was hardly 3 to 4 million. So people, I'm very, very confident it is just not because media is here, the audience is here, I'm telling Hyderabad has all happening, positive things happening. Next 5 to 10 years, we will see much more development. I'm very, very confident about it.
Great, yeah, that's, thank you for that, Sandeep. Mr. Nandakishore, if we could talk, see what's weighing on people's minds is that the sudden growth of the city, which is spectacular, has also been accompanied by an absolute shooting up of prices. And when you are living within the city, you are not sure if these prices are prices at which you should invest or buy homes. So I think this question is weighing on a lot of minds. If you could take us through, the logistics, the logical reasoning for the increasing in prices, and how should a family, whether it's a middle class or an upper middle class family, take a call now about how they should buy their home?
I think first and foremost, the point to be considered is the price increase that we are witnessing today is basically a cost push price increase. It's not something which has come out of excessive demand. It is something which has been predominantly pushed by the cost escalations. And there are two kinds of cost escalations that have happened. One is by way of the GST input withdrawal. So earlier we used to get that input tax credit which has been withdrawn. Now that has become a straight away a burden, because our average input GST on inputs comes to around 18%.
Yeah.
Now that has become earlier we used to get close to 12 to 13% input. Now so that 12 to 13% has become a straight cost to the developer. Now this is something which is not visible to the society in general.
And the buyer, yeah.
So it has become a straight cost to the developer. Now which translates, if you take any average product, it translates close to 500, 400 to 600 rupees depending on the product.
Perfect.
This is one point. Second point, if you see the way the prices have of other inputs, like whether you call steel, cement, I mean everything, electrical items, now they have just shot through the roof.
Yeah.
So these are two primary reasons why the prices have gone up. And the third and a consequential, I would say, point is the land values have also gone up.
Yes.
And why land values have gone up, we have to understand here, there is a general prosperity in Telangana.
Yes.
There is an enhancement in prosperity in Telangana. You go to rural Telangana today, you will find greenery all over.
Yes.
Which was not the case. Earlier when I used to drive down to Karimnagar or Ramagundam and those places, I rarely used to see greenery along the road.
Absolutely.
Today we are seeing that. So there is a general prosperity that is happening in Telangana. So landholders or the farmers are no longer, in a need to sell their land.
Yeah.
So they are able to command their price. And I think this is where it makes a big impact. So there is a land value increase, which I think is good.
Yeah.
Because then what happens, it should command its right price.
Yeah.
And the other point is, real estate cannot sustain on its own. Real estate gets its money from the surpluses that are generated by other industries. Money has to come from the economy, the money has to come into real estate, and it is the last investment for any individual, because it's a big ticket investment for any family. Particularly if you're talking about middle class, it's a big ticket investment. So for them, this is going to be a very crucial decision, and only when they are comfortable everywhere else, they'll put that money into real estate. So this is what happens. So what it essentially means that there has to be a general healthy economy which is operating, and just now Sandeep was telling me, the amount of employment generation that is happening, and in fact Ajitesh was also sharing a while ago, the amount of employment generation that is happening, the amount of general economic prosperity that is happening, which is what is helping the buyers to take. So from a middle class perspective, they are no longer a compromised class. Middle class in Hyderabad, or I would say in Telangana, is no longer a compromised class.
One would agree.
They are having multiple of options today to buy and invest, because we are having projects not just in the heart of the city. Because we at Ramki, we have developed projects which are on the periphery of the city.
Yeah.
So there are, and as the minister was pointing out, there is a regional ring road which is coming. So you will see projects coming up because of the good infrastructure. You will see projects coming up all across the city. So in that sense, I think the middle class and upper middle class will have the options.
Yeah.
And coming to the point whether they should take a decision now to invest, my recommendation is yes, because it is not an artificial or a speculative price growth that it will fall tomorrow. It is something which will sustain. It is something which is basically, as I said, born out of cost push. So
Yes.
it is going to remain there. So if you are waiting for the cost prices to come down, my
That's not
answer would
happening.
be sorry.
That's not happening. Yes, I think that was crystal clear. And I request the people who are outside the enclosure to please quieten down because we need to absolute silence for this conversation. I think as a citizen of the city, there is tremendous pride in seeing how the city has grown, you know, like Sandeep was saying, and like you're saying, we should mentally mature ourselves to understand that the price rise has priced in a lot of things which were missed out over several decades and is at the optimal. And obviously builders cannot even think of reducing it when the costs itself are going up. But I think the one question that remains is on the affordable side. And Kranti, given all your experience at Janapriya, you people have done so much work on that side. So if you could share with us, how should people view affordable housing now? What is affordable for one person is not affordable for another. And if you could share the policies of the government, which now, you know, you look at for future planning.
From the central government perspective, there has been a rebate or a lesser GST that is being incorporated if the flat cost is lesser than 50 lakhs and so on and so forth. And the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme kind of subsidizes 2.5 lakh rupees for income categories of 6 lakhs and lower. Before that, it was 18 lakhs, but cometh last March, it was 6 lakhs only. I think probably there is something to look from that perspective. But to what do I define as affordable is I do not agree that, you know, you go far away, build a apartment which is probably going to cost you cheaper and expect that somebody is going to travel all the time.
Yeah.
You can see the price escalations in terms of travel and everything. These guys can't handle it. So anything in my view when we conceive a project is that if I can take 10% and 20% from the customer, and if I am able to give him a product where he is able to raise loan for the home loan for 80% or 90%, I consider it affordable. As
Okay.
long as we are making a product for the salaried class
Yeah.
and are not moving out of the city too much,
Yeah.
is an affordable project, is what we consider it as.
Yeah,
And even in
that's
the
an
current
excellent
price
point.
points, it is possible to do it. It is definitely possible to go ahead
Yes.
and launch projects. But to catch upon the cost point that
Yes.
Nandakishore Garu so nicely explained, you cannot have a double whammy. You are, all the other industries are getting a rebate on GST.
Yes.
Why are we denied it? Just because when the GST was launched, the government was not able to convince customers that real estate prices will eventually go down. There was a huge ready-built stock available
Yes.
where they couldn't have taken the price, but that was not permanent. Permanent was after that stock goes on, the under construction properties were supposed to get cheaper.
Yeah.
Just because to cover that aspect up, we were denied rebate of GST. Secondly, now on cost, we had 3 brackets of cost when GST was introduced. Now every element is 18%. It's in the highest bracket. There's almost nothing that we can say is in the 12% bracket or anything lower than that. Everything came up to the 18% bracket. So if I am selling an apartment today, my customer pays 18% on cost as GST and 5% on revenue as GST. Works out to 25% on cost. So a real estate builder or a customer who is trying to buy a flat
Yes.
is paying 25% on the cost of land plus cost of construction. This is the truth, and this nobody is trying to sort out. Coming back to the cost issue, another major issue that Hyderabad faces is cost of land. And yes, there is a genuine increase in cost of land, but non-implementation of RERA is causing, I would say, temporary inflation and hidden inflation.
Yes.
People are going ahead, making a deal
Yeah.
without getting a permission, without getting a RERA approval,
Yes.
doing advertisements, again prohibited as per RERA. I am telling you, none of the builders that are sitting on this panel are being given a level playing field. I have to go buy a land, make sure that I get the permission, get the RERA approval. There is a lot of capital that gets infused to do all this and then launch. Whereas other developers, most of the developers are directly selling the apartments to buy the land.
Yes.
And that is a very negative trend that has started and is boosting up the land prices.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's about
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more on the hampering effects if RERA is not, implemented. And I think even when the minister spoke, they did raise the whole point of pre-sales and the problems. I think, Sunil, you have to tell us, because you are from TREDA and you know what's on the mind of most of the Telangana builders. How do you resolve such a complicated situation? RERA was supposed to solve problems.
We have this Indian jugaad.
Cloud.
We have this Indian jugaad. You come up with demonetization, we have ways to beat demonetization. RERA was a very, very well thought out legislation.
Yes.
It was basically enacted to protect the consumers. And this was enacted in 2016 and enacted in, the rules were set up in 2017 in Telangana state. There is definitely a great concern amongst all the developer associations about this pre-sales and
Yes.
undivided share of land. We had a press conference yesterday. I was part of the press conference. Definitely what we would like to educate the consumers is, do your study.
Yeah.
Is the project approved by either HMDA or GHMC or the relevant authorities? And after receiving the approval, is it approved by RERA? All that we are requesting the consumers is kindly do this.
Due diligence.
Yes, get into these details. Your money will be absolutely safe. Today, like Kranti or
Yes. Nankishore.
what we are seeing is, I don't even acquire the land properly. I give some advance to the landowner and then suddenly
Start my pre-sales.
start selling apartments. The whole purpose of RERA is defeated. You get your project approvals and then RERA approvals and then you start selling royally. So one more time from this dais, we would like to appeal to all the consumers, kindly do a little bit of study with regards to the approval that they have received. Please insist that the developer has obtained the RERA approval and then your money is safe, your project will be complete.
Yes, you want to add something.
While it is the duty of the government to make sure the RERA is, or the body RERA is acting proactive and then punishments are given, penalty is given for violating. But I like to ask a very simple thing. It is never be a one-way traffic. I'm asking the consumers, the so-called unprofessional developers, if I have to name them, before RERA at the land stage they are selling. What is the sales scheme? The sales scheme is once you get the approval, once you launch it, it is at 6,000 rupees. Now you buy it at 4,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Is it not the greed? The greed by the consumers, they know they are not supposed to buy because there is no approval. That greed of making that 50% within 1 year or 8 months from approval or that day is making them to invest. Now these people are going to cry and go to the government when this so-called unprofessional developer is not going to develop and their money is stuck.
Yes.
Then they will go to the media that RERA is not there and the government is not doing. So first, it is a two-way traffic. The government has to obviously enact and make sure RERA is acted and punishment is given. But at the end of the day, it is a responsibility, as Sunil sir said, responsibility of the citizens to make sure they do their homework,
Yeah.
and they cannot be greedy to make that 50% and knowing that it's not right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that a certain sense of enlightened buying is now required to bring in that sense of, and like you said, Kranti, otherwise it becomes a very unlevel playing field. Yeah, very true. I'm sure the point is taken. If you can talk a little bit about the luxury housing space in Hyderabad, because we read a lot of reports, especially after the pandemic, that people are preferring larger houses. People are preferring houses where, they can also have an office inside. Millennials who wanted to rent homes now feel like, no, maybe we should buy a home. So a lot of things have changed with the pandemic. And there has been a very clear movement towards at least larger, greener, cleaner homes. Some would classify those as luxury homes. So if you could, but we've also read reports about a lot of surplus in Hyderabad. So if you could share your views on all these points, on what is the consumer of Hyderabad really after? And all of you could take it, Samson, you could start and then all of you could share your inputs.
Check. Thanks, Deepal, for the platform and the panel. It's an awesome panel, and for views which are real-time views. My sense is that if you look at Hyderabad's consumer today, you'll have to give him a comparative pre-pandemic, and now we might not still call it post-pandemic. Generally, until 2019, not just Hyderabad, across top 8 cities of India, where one can compare how office sector is doing and how housing sector is doing, everybody came up and there was more demand. The price was rising both on rentals as well as capital values. So overall 2019 got interrupted only by, as we all know, the Janta lockdown of March 2020 and then series of lockdowns. We opened up and then we had the other lockdown. Markets have responded completely. I mean, there was no expert in April, May 2020 to predict how the consumer will behave. However, many of us sit back very relieved and also excited that the euphoria, there is a justification for the euphoria, at least in Hyderabad. There was pent-up demand, for sure, which absorbed the inventory that was lying. This led for developers to launch new projects, and I must say that they were soft when they launched new projects. I'm talking about grade A developers, and they actually experienced a very good response. So last year, which means after the first lockdown, developers started producing and developing more projects. They launched more. The sales were met, and therefore the price rose. So I'm dwelling on 3 aspects of the economics of real estate: the demand, the supply, and the price, and all of them have a logic right now. What is perhaps not sustainable is a part of the segment, a part of the market which can go very high on sentiment. And that's where I would say real estate for this consumer in Hyderabad is both a sentiment, it is a reality, it is also an investment tool, and it is also a self-consumption opportunity. So people are buying houses to stay. During COVID, it became, of course, the most desirable asset compared to stocks and gold and other investments. Even today, when you look at all other index, real estate continues to offer, even to the millennial who was saying, I don't need a house, I may not need a car, they are finding value both in the house and the car, which took them out of, let's say they didn't have to do public transport, but they were going all over. Today, that consumer is having disposable income, because in Hyderabad, we would still attribute a lot to the anchor, which is IT sector is drawing the jobs, the employment, and therefore the real estate. And we feel that if office sector does well, housing definitely increases. And one very glaring aspect is that even today, after the second lockdown, I am personally witnessing a lot of people who are choosing Hyderabad as a location to relocate, including my colleagues and others. And these are colleagues coming from Bangalore, from Chennai. There are colleagues coming from Pune, elsewhere. They feel Hyderabad is the growth story. And what do they see? they see there is abundance of supply of land, which is a restriction in most other cities. There is government friendliness. Successively, all governments have added more to this city's growth. And I think that's a great thing. And finally, I feel that this government feels itself very young. Like I keep saying, 9 years old. They want to prove a point that they have energy, they have agility, they want to take the state to number one across sectors. And that kind of attitude, that political will itself helps sectors like this, which has such a huge mix of unorganized sector. So if one reason we were discussing, the undivided land share and those deals, those transactions which happen without RERA, their concern is that this is a free playing market. And the government has done a bit but not enough, and it may not be just the government. Like Sandeep also mentioned, the consumer wants his capital growth. So he is willing to speculate, and therefore for his greed he is willing to put in early to gain maximum. But should we be a very organized sector, then our returns will also get flattened out and not like the way we have seen. Yeah.
There is a problem. Yes, Ajitesh, yours. Is it on? No?
Yeah. So firstly, people, what's happening is, see, over the last 1.5, 2 years, once from when the pandemic broke out, right? So, people haven't been traveling much. So they're sitting with a lot of discretionary spending, right? Discretionary income, right, which they can spend on the world. So basically what's happening is they're sitting with all this income, and then they're sitting in their homes. So where, naturally, they would want more space because that is the asset which they're consuming on a day-to-day level, and then they're sitting with this excess income. So that's when a lot of this, the upfront payment of 10%, 20%, which the consumer has to do when they're buying a house, they have that money right there. In a typical scenario, what happens is, consumer though would want to buy, he might not be having that advance amount, right? The booking or agreement of sale amount, and that's when they postpone the buying decision. But now consumers are sitting with it, so that's why they're taking the decision and going ahead with it. But one good thing I would like to point out is definitely the industry is becoming more product centric. Like any other industry, because we see now, a lot more, people are working at a floor plan level. It's not just about increasing your carpet area or increasing your, just the size of the square footage of the flat. It's even making it more livable, delivering more on the consumer lifestyle, right? A floor plan or anything is supposed to deliver on a consumer lifestyle. So that way, the good thing is it's becoming more product centric, and people are sitting with the discretion income, so which they can invest. And definitely there are some threats. The threat definitely has to be, how other panelists have pointed out, the pre-sale is a very big threat because, it's a simple XYZ model, right? So X is the amount of inventory you need to dilute to purchase the land, or in the case of a joint development, the landowner gets it. Sometimes, some of the, the fly-by-night developers who are doing this, they are diluting too much amount of inventory at the X stage. So thereby less inventory, it's basic financial risk. If the developer has less inventory to sell and build, the project is not going to get over on time. And after time, the cost run is so much that after a point investing in it might be a wrong thing for the developer to do. So it's just so people have to be aware of these things. They need to understand the math behind it. Everywhere the government cannot come and help. The consumers are smart enough, they have to be empowered, right? And so they should see the light in all of this and then invest. But on the broader side, definitely our builders are more delivery centric compared to most other cities, and definitely they are investing in technology and several other things to ramp up their operations and all. And overall, there is a good sentiment. And mind you, again, this is going to be a decade of digitization all over the world, right? So there's enormous wave of digitization which is happening, and this is generating a lot of jobs in the IT sector, and they are the principal consumers of housing products, right? And naturally, with this level of employment which is going to happen, there will be a lot of positive spillover, so which will lead to a lot of growth in the self-employment category and all of that. So definitely I see that there's a lot of positive growth, and given that the product, it's becoming a more product-centric industry, so there is good demand to be seen.
Yes, yes. So Sandeep, despite the surplus, you see a lot of new launches consistently coming in Hyderabad.
So, I think one funny thing about real estate is that, I think not only real estate, it is a human behavior that we don't learn from the mistakes, right? And so now you take about what is happening, there is always a cycle. So there is a greed, there is a cycle, and there is a herds mentality, right? The way human behavior goes through. Now, if you see what is happening in last 12 months in India, I'm just giving an example. From 2008, when the first startup came, Flipkart was started as a books in 2008. From 2008 to 2020, there were hardly 15 or 20 unicorns. In last 1 year, there are 32 unicorns. There is so much of money. There is so much money printing in US and the funds are doing, right? As a result, what has happened when too much of money chasing too few startups, things has happened. But can we say that this is going to be in the future? Answer is no, right? So there is that. So when I talk of real estate, right, from 2000, this government came in power in 2014, and from 2016 till 2020 February, it was everyone was going behind commercial, right, because commercial was doing well. And I'm sorry to say that with the developers sitting on the dais, there are developers who have not done even 1 lakh square feet in the entire life. They are talking of 2 million square feet, right? So what is that? That is a greed, or you can say that, yeah, this wave or this cycle, positive cycle, is never going to come to an end. Now I have started seeing that sort of a cycle where everyone is running behind residential has started, because they saw, because of work from home, because of COVID 2020, February, March, the commercial story has come to an end. From their perspective, they started chasing the residential. So I feel the way things are happening, my request to the developers community is that you need to do homework well. You need to do research. You need to know what the demand and supply. The way too much of commercial was built over the years from 2014 to 2020, similarly too much of residential has been built, right? So the developers who do their research very well, Ajit spoke about the product, they know about the product, they know about the sellability, they will do well. People who just want to ride the cycle because the cycle is positive without much research, without financial discipline, and I think they are going to see the hard. To answer your question, I feel until unless they're disciplined in what they're doing, the way few of the developers in the commercial real estate who has overbuilt are suffering now, they will suffer. That is my view.
If you could share with us the story from the developer's side, how easy is it to plan ahead of time, and given all these precarious scenes where you have your other companies doing pre-sales and you're following RERA and things like that, at the same time this is the greatest opportunity ever for a builder's company. How do you manage all these different aspects?
All I would like to say is that when a ship is sinking, it is the rats which jump out first. So, if there is a crisis, or if there is a, normal business cycle that we encounter where real estate will come under stress, it is these unscrupulous developers whom you will find disappearing from the scene.
Very well
So
said.
this is something which I think the buyers should understand and realize.
Yes.
And as Sandeep rightly pointed out, we have seen this, right? Peak plant schemes and all that. People burn their fingers and then they blame the government, you did not regulate. Whereas, so today, so much of information is available at the consumer's disposal.
Yes.
He should do that little bit of research before he puts his money. You cannot blame the government or the system for everything.
Yes.
So fundamentally, that is the point. And most importantly, I would like to say, like any other industry, real estate industry will also go through its cycles.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what happened in the past 10 years, if you see, when the rest of the country was doing good, Hyderabad wasn't doing good, though we as developers never admitted that. But what happened is there was, again, the moment the state settled down, the political issues were resolved and everything, the state started doing well.
Yes.
And the partially because of the pent-up demand that was cleared, and then partially because the city per se, as all of you mentioned, per se, all the good things that were to be recognized long back have started getting recognition only now. So the city is doing good. But nevertheless, we have to remember and understand and appreciate that there is going to be a time. Now it's only a question of how long it would be, whether it would be a 5-year cycle or a 10-year cycle. But there is going to be a time when this market also will come under stress.
Yes.
So now this is where I think developers will look at it from a different perspective. I think it is, as Ajitesh rightly mentioned, it is going to become more product centric. It is not just the size, it is not just the location, it is going to be more product centric. And one of the key points what I'm going to see in the future is you'll see more hybrid products. Say for example, in one of our projects,
Yes.
we have got residential apartments. Out of 9 towers, we have got 2 towers which are catering to the senior citizens. So I'm not creating a community which is only for
Separate.
senior citizens.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a hybrid product. And this is going to be the order of the day. You will see lot more product innovations happening. Lot more product. And let me also tell you and confess to an extent, real estate hasn't seen too many innovations which
In a long
any other
time.
industry has
Absolutely.
seen. So we have been that way, in that sense, very laid back.
Yes.
And so that has to change. And you will see a lot more product innovations happening in the coming days. And these are the and second thing, now today if you go to any 2 projects,
Yeah.
and because of the Vastu system we have in
Yes,
Hyderabad,
yes.
except for the facade, more or less everything remains the same. Okay. What really differentiates one from the other is the customer service.
Yeah.
So the guys, the customer service, the delivery capabilities, these are the ones which are going to differentiate one developer from the other. And the worst part here is real estate always had a high entry barrier.
Yes.
In terms of capital investment in land and other things. Now these dubious schemes, what they have done is they have lowered that entry barrier.
Dramatically.
Now anybody who is having a little bit of clout or with little bit of enterprise in him, he is able to raise money from the market and start off a real estate project.
Yes.
Now that is something which doesn't augur well for the industry. That has to be restrained.
Yes.
And how it has to be done, I think people like him are the ones who have to bell the cat. But I see, in my view, in Hyderabad market is here for good. It will have its own cycles, but I'm sure, as like any other industry, it is the developers who believe in customer service, who believe in the brand strength, who believe in delivery, they are the ones who will sail through.
Who will sail through and who will lead the market. Very well said. And I do think that people do some research, but I think they should do full research. Yeah, Sunil, you are smiling all through, no matter who says what, you are smiling through this discussion. What is it that you want to share with us? Given that you have insights into most of the local developers' thought processes, what their plans are, you know, and all the different things that we have discussed right now, how do the developers see it and how should consumers see it eventually?
People like most of my fellow panelists have said, we have a robust government, very proactive policies. You know, I don't want to sound like a spokesman for the government.
Yeah, but it's a fact.
But let me tell you, you know, some of the game-changing policies that they have introduced, TSI Pass, was a game changer in the country.
Yeah.
Mega projects get approval in 15 days. Other projects get approval in 30 days. This is a fantastic policy. Apart from that, they're concentrating on the infrastructure, creating great flyovers. They've come out with something called the SRDP, Strategic Road Development Planning, underpasses, flyovers, bridges, you know, some phenomenal work they are doing with regards to the infrastructure. Now with regard to the theme about what is Hyderabad going to look like in 10 years from now. Let me tell you, I was just going through the ICT policy released by the government of Telangana. The kind of targets they are looking at right now in 2021, the ITES sector employs about 6.25 lakh people. By 2026, they are looking at 10 lakh people. The electronic sector, they are looking at creating employment for 3 lakh people. ITES right now exports 1.5 lakh crores. They're targeting 3 lakh crores of exports. The kind of work they are doing in the pharma sector is phenomenal. Right now, the life sciences contribute about $13 billion, but the government is pushing really hard to make it $100 billion by 2030. So, great things are happening in the state, a lot of employment. ultimately for real estate to sustain and grow, it is the employment that is going to be created. Let me assure you, a lot of employment is going to be created in various sectors. Government is very aggressive. I was talking to one bulk drug manufacturer. Telangana accounts for 40% of all bulk drugs produced in the country and 50% of all exports. What are these numbers? And this is a relatively small state. So 10 years, of course, every asset class has its cycles.
Yes.
Stocks have their cyclical, real estate is cyclical, everything is cyclical, but then we have a great government, and because of all the policies, we are looking at a great Hyderabad 10 years, 15 years from now.
Okay.
I
Yes,
will have
please.
one point to...
Yes, please. After that, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, one point to mention to Nandakishore sir's
Yes.
point of view. See, I think consumers should definitely look at, a developer's capability of raising organized capital vis-a-vis capability of raising unorganized capital. Because see, now there is a lot of unorganized capital coming into the sector, right? And that's the reason for this artificial, some sort of artificial, thing which has been come up. So basically, because one, see, having said anything, this is a very capital intensive business.
Yes.
We always need capital. So when things are, when a lot of capital is raised from the unorganized sector, once the sector starts cooling off, then this will be the capital which will move out first.
Yes.
Thereby creating, that entire tailspin. So consumers should definitely look at, a developer's capability of raising organized capital. That's one
Sure.
point. And another point regarding, your earlier question of, the prices have changed too quick.
Yeah.
See, for that, the answer is, one is, we need to take into account that the infrastructure creation has been very rampant. One, I think because of the lockdown, the streets were, fairly less crowded, so the government went on a, massive spree of creating infrastructure. So whenever, see, any change happens too fast, naturally the rest of the things will fall, rest of the variables will fall in place. That's been one thing. And another key component I would like to cite is, this is, having said anything, it's a fairly open market, so it is going to be a cost plus model end of the day, right? So land is a critical cost, then your raw materials, and then your markup of 15 or 18%, and that's where the landing cost. Now, though all of us think there's a lot of land available in Hyderabad, see, within the ORR limits, there are 2 crore acres of land available. But the unfortunate thing is, very less land available for organized development. You see, Hyderabad is, even if you look from a simple Google map, most of our lands are already, layouts are done, right? And layouts are done 10 years before the industry even reaches there, right? So once the industry reaches there, now there's so much of layouts going on, so there is no land. And because of this, there might be only, 5 or 10 land parcels which are like 4 or 5 acres of size, and that's where they are getting that, lot of premium costing, because of which the entire cost is increasing.
Sure.
So, we need to be even, mindful
Yeah, I think
about
that is an insight into why, we have so much money chasing the land and why the prices have risen.
We don't have much land for organized development. That's how I would put it.
No, that's a well put point, and it's something which I think most people would oversee. Kranti, do you want to add to this whole conversation about surplus, the surplus that is available and how the consumer is viewing its purchases today? Yeah.
I have a little bit of a hybrid view on this.
Sure.
If you look at any other city, there is a cap of FSI. We don't have a cap of FSI. Because we don't have a cap of FSI, like Ritesh rightly put, there is some land for organized development, some not. But overall, Hyderabad's land accessibility is decent.
Better than most.
Yes, compared to many other cities. Now, when we purchase a property, I can build a lot of square footage than, say, any other city that I can do. To complement that or to survive this, I think one of the major things the government is doing is road development.
Yeah.
Almost every radial road is 100 feet road.
Yes.
The outer ring road is wide. You don't see this in any other city. They know that tall buildings are going to come and huge volume is going to come.
Yeah.
Whether is it enough or not is something proper work has to happen, proper analysis has to happen. Probably the metro has to catch up with the road network as quickly as possible.
Well put point.
And having said that, it is the same reason that this FSI being available, our cost of delivery, our sale prices have been lower. Even though the land prices went up, our sale prices are still at the price point of 6,500 to 8,500 rupees per square foot in prominent locations. This is not happening in cities like Chennai or Bangalore. They already are hitting 10,000s and 12,000s and 13,000s, which is not again affordable. So, while you want to be aggressive as we are, you have to catch up on infrastructure, and probably any developer will look at, if I have a 10-acre property, I'll take all the permission at once.
Yeah.
Does not mean that I'm building everything at once. I have a 5-year span, 6-year span to do it. Organized developers take tower by tower. We take our RERA permissions also, couple of towers put together,
Yeah.
so that we deliver that and deliver the club. And even if the market tanks, we hold on to the rest of the stock and not launch it. So the scare that generally gets built up is, oh, he took 3 million square feet permission. He took 4 million square feet. 7 million is not going to be built in the first year.
Yeah.
The idea is 6 or 7 years, right? So I think that mindset, and when people think that so much stock is coming, I think the logical way to understand is how many towers are going to get into construction phase. That has to be looked at.
Yeah. No, you raised this point of FSI, and last 2 years I have heard so many eminent people talk about FSI in different ways. There have been even top research houses who think FSI should be slightly managed now in Hyderabad in some areas. Otherwise, the rate and pace of construction and the concentration of construction in a few areas will, crack the infrastructure around that area because of the kind of attractiveness the city has. So, there are, of course, most builders think that it is because of the FSI, unlimited FSI, that Hyderabad has grown the way it has grown. Also, we are a city which can grow in all directions, and we are finally growing in all directions, otherwise we were concentrated. I would really like a deep insight into the whole FSI issue, because should Hyderabad ever look at capping FSI? I can see Nandkishore smiling already, and I am sure all of you will have something interesting to say, but please do share your views. This has been a topic which has been discussed quite a bit.
No, as far as I'll tell you, and like you said, there is a hybrid view on this. I would say no, we should not cap the FSI. That will jack up the sale prices going forward. The demand that is coming to Hyderabad is not because we have more FSI.
Yeah,
It is not because we have more FSI, so IT is giving more jobs.
No.
That is totally unrelated subject. Lockdown has created two things for Hyderabad.
Okay.
One, work from home.
Yes.
And because of work from home, IT people sat at home, and all the companies who didn't have ERPs implemented or proper CRM software implemented started realizing the importance and demand for that.
Yes.
So a lot of IT spurt has come into it. We were ready, so we took a little bit of that into this thing. Same medication, healthcare. Hyderabad has always been in the front of medication and healthcare. Pharma picked up like nobody's business. Bulk drugs picked up like nobody's business. So these two have been a real growth driver.
Yeah.
And that does not accountify whether you built higher towers or lower towers. The demand was.
But the only thing was, is there a worry that down the road infrastructure will really be affected badly because of our FSI rules? Sunil, Nandkishore, please, Samson.
Okay. FSI is a topic which is less talked about, clearly.
Yeah.
But it's a need of the hour. Hyderabad always stands out as an exception to other cities where there is regulation. Additional FSI is usually bought, and therefore it comes to the cost of the developer, and then he recovers it through his leasing or sales. FSI again is also product centric, location centric. So to have everything open-ended can be a cause of anxiety, because in most locations land price and FSI determines your cost of product and even your leasing cost.
Yes.
But in Hyderabad, it could be reverse. What's happening is, if I can justify the land cost through as high as I can build, I'm willing to pay whatever the price is for the land.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we are justifying it, saying that I can go so high, I can build X amount of square footage, so therefore I don't mind buying the land at a certain price. Now this happens here.
Yeah.
This as a trend will keep it a big gap between the haves and the have-nots within the developer segment, and therefore it can give rise to only certain geographies. For example, if High-Tech City offers high FSI and the growth corridor, what happens to the other? Just because there is high FSI in Uppal, will it still sell as well?
Yeah, it won't.
It may not.
Yeah.
So somewhere there is a lopsided development just by offering FSI. FSI needs to be discussed and that sensitivity is there. But at the moment, what I feel, and it's a different angle of thought,
Sure.
that FSI is also at the moment to encourage the industry and the sector.
Yeah.
It has come out of demonetization, separation issues. It came out, there was RERA, there was GST, which all were impediments for free-flowing development for developers in this place who were invested from a very long time. And then pandemic also happened.
Yes.
So almost every time developers are getting back to normalcy, there is a certain surgical strike as people started using that nomenclature.
Yeah.
I feel that today FSI is a benefit for the developers. They're able to justify and therefore they are at comparable standards with developers of other cities. So good developments, definitely. If you look at it, FSI has not been with poor quality. High FSI has also come up with new positioning. There has been new configurations of units in housing. Office, there's almost between two roads of within Knowledge Park and the old Inorbit Road, you can see buildings of two different heights because of the FSI consumption that has come about to save them. So somehow in this place, developers have been innovative, policies have been friendly so that they can develop. They need to survive and they need to thrive, and that has happened. Residential has been a recent success story. I don't think developers in Hyderabad have had such a good time as before. And it comes at a pain point. It looks good, but I think there's been a lot that they have gone through. Enduring the holding costs, labor migration issues during COVID, and thereafter, if you notice, even through the COVID, when the budgets were awaited, there wasn't much for real estate specifically.
There wasn't.
Except for interest rates, certain subventions. There were some states which did stamp duty registration cuts, Maharashtra, Kolkata.
Yeah, but we did not.
They all did a lot of stimulus. But this market actually just depended organically on the consumers to come and buy.
Demand.
So somewhere you justify that there is high FSI, which means high cost. They need to build in capital. They are depending on aggressive sales and they are hoping that the market factors all remain same. So it's not as easy as it sounds. So right now FSI is debatable, but yes, I'm with Kranti when he says right now just removing it or curtailing it, one has to debate it out rather than take an abrupt decision.
Take a decision.
Second point I want to make is FSI again should be discussed because warehousing as an asset class in real estate doesn't need high FSI unless it is in city. So this point FSI that we are talking about in peripheral location, for that, if the landlord keeps thinking that I can build 4 times, but as warehousing income I get only, 1/4 of that, he is then being very real estate minded and he is not allowing a warehousing sector to develop. So these are some of the fallouts that today all landlords across different locations are calculating how much yield they can get back. And that spoils the show even for developers. So somewhere not everybody is really benefiting with high FSI.
Very well put points, Samson, and I do think that this subject is a subject which has so many different aspects to it. Yeah, we do need to look at it more deeply. Does anybody want to add anything?
I would like to say FSI has inherent economics built into it.
Okay.
The economics of higher density of construction by way of going higher up on number of floors vis-a-vis the cost of construction, vis-a-vis the capital required, vis-a-vis the capability in terms of skill for planning, etc., to build. There is this. Now today that point has come for question only because of some people, as was said earlier, not having the capability, raising unorganized capital and trying to, lure the landowners by promising big returns. If you really see, this is a recent phenomenon. If you go back and see, even where there were FSI, unlimited FSI available, developers limited themselves to building 14 floors or 20 floors. You didn't see 3 years ago people building 40 floors, 50 floors, 60 floors. That was primarily because there is the inherent economics involved and the developers respected that economics. So they weighed the pricing that they can do, the capital that is required, the capability in terms of time, technology, etc. and then they assess the economics, and then they decided on how much effort FSI used to be utilized. It's not just that it is available for free, let me build skyscrapers. So that is an inherent economics built. Now this economics has been distorted by the unscrupulous guys. So I don't think the rule or the facility per se has any question mark around it. So that is number one. Number two, land per se doesn't have any value. It derives its value by the use that is permitted. The same land can, if it is agriculture zone, it has some X value. If it is a commercial zone, it has a Y value. So I think, so when we are talking of FSI capping, there are so many other things which come around with it, including the compliances, the government I mean, what I would say, the authority interferences, so many. So you are actually opening up so many things. So I think one of the reasons why Hyderabad developers have been highly compliant in terms of construction is because those shackles are not there. So there is no reason for anybody to deviate. There is no reason for anyone to break the rules. So I think this is one of the key points. So I think a discussion on FSI should be looked at in a much wider context. And I think, as somebody said, FSI was one of the reasons which ensured the cost of the end product was low, and which also attracted the companies to Hyderabad. The lease rentals consequentially were low, and you had people coming in and employment getting generated. So I think it has a much larger ramification rather than just a amended GO saying that this is what it is going to be.
Very well said. Yes.
Just, I'll just give you a very interesting thing. Few of our Fortune 500 corporate clients, I'm not saying that I'm not supporting FSI, but I'll tell you, when they are floating the RFP now, and they are like the marquee companies, they are clearly writing in the RFP that we don't want to shortlist a development, IT park development, where the FSI is beyond this. Because they feel that we really don't want to get into a claustrophobic, dense construction, which has its side effects and all. It has happened. It already happened with few of the clients, and few of the good projects had lost out because of that, right? So obviously what, Kranti is saying, or everyone is saying, they are talking from a residential perspective, but we need, what I'm talking about is the commercial real estate. The corporate clients have started looking into this. So my take on the FSI is that, while in cities like Bangalore, where the FSI is just 1,20,000 or 1,30,000 or whatever may be, right, per acre or whatever may be, and we are, let's suppose, building 4 lakh square feet per acre for office space, and let's suppose 2.5 lakhs per year. I think I'm not saying to sort of not do anything. I'm saying you have to find a balance. At the end of the day, I'm only worried about the city infrastructure. I'm not worried about anything else. Okay. And city infrastructure. So we need to find a balance. Too less an FSI like other cities is not a right thing to do, and too more an FSI is also right. Let's suppose, if you ask me, my personal take is that if it is in Bangalore, it is, let's suppose, 3.2 FSI, and we are talking about, let's suppose, in office space, we are talking of 7 FSI, 6 FSI. Can in 5 FSI or 5 point FSI can you regulate it? Let's take a balanced approach on that.
Absolutely. No, I do think this, and definitely we will have many discussions on FSI as time goes by, because this is definitely going to be something which is, weighing on the minds even of the government. Sunil, you want to say something?
Just take a minute.
Yeah.
This unlimited FSI was introduced in 2006, GO 86. And then it was, with very minor amendments, it was amended in 2012. Of course, unlimited FSI had its own inbuilt controls. Like, you go higher, you need to leave more setbacks, you need to create more parking. So obviously they had their own inbuilt safeguards. 3-4 years back, a new GO was introduced by named GO 50. That particular GO says you leave this setback and go as high as you can. Now, very honestly, all the associations are discussing, just as we had a joint press conference yesterday with regards to pre-sales and UDS, we are seriously discussing about the merits and demerits of GO 50. This GO 50 is creating the 30, 40, 50, 60 floors. So obviously we love GO 168, which is which is unlimited FSI with inbuilt safeguards. More setbacks.
Yes, yes.
The higher you go, the more setbacks.
Yeah.
Now this Geo50 definitely all associations are discussing. I'm sure several developers are discussing. We very shortly would like to go to the government and give our own recommendations to the government about this 50, GeoMS 50.
Yeah, that is a very good thing to hear. But I'm sure all of you will weigh in all your points and share with the government what would be ideal. What I really love about Hyderabad builders and researchers is that you all have concern for the city. You know, it's not just your industry, but you are really concerned about what impact, you know, all this rapid growth is going to have on the city, because clearly we all feel it's a very special place to be in. And Ajitesh, as a wrapping up round, do you want to just share your insights on the technology aspect and how technology will change the housing sector, what consumers should look out for, and you know, like, just make the right choice, because you can't keep changing your house, especially like.
True. I mean, see, the industry is scaling up. Like, you know, over the last 3 to 4 years, our annual output has gone up in terms of construction, and definitely that now it's, see, when we started off the discussion, we started off from the point of price, right?
Yeah.
I think the other important point is the issue of trust. Because people might be okay sometimes to pay for the additional 10% if the aggregate trust in the industry is higher.
Yeah.
So, and trust is significantly linked with your operational capabilities, right? And the technology stands at the center point of it. So, as we scale up, it's going to be even more important that we, focus on technology and develop some, certain new concepts. And like we at ASBL particularly, have explored the concept of advanced work packaging and, trying to use artificial intelligence to do the planning, right? So, because planning is undoubtedly the most important thing as you're scaling up, and with humans I think we can achieve a 20% accuracy, that's it, but with artificial intelligence systems we can take it up to 80-85% level accuracy. And so that we'll be able to maintain our delivery, because see, one key point I would like to raise is, like, you look at the Bangalore builders versus the NCR developers. That the Bangalore builders on an average were a lot more disciplined. That's why overall the market prospered.
Yeah.
So I think the same has to happen even in Hyderabad. So we have to constantly keep innovating and develop newer technologies.
Yeah.
And so that our deliveries are maintained, and the trust of the end user is all. Because in this entire gamut of things, I think it's the trust which is the most important thing, and towards which everyone has to
Yeah.
That's like, once that's lost, everything is lost.
Everything's
So,
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why tech can play a center stage.
That's a great point to end on. What came up for me right through this conversation is that Hyderabadi builders have been self-disciplined. The houses we respect, the names we respect, because there were so many things they could have done, even before, which were off the rules. And now we are looking at rules more, because we are seeing a lot of examples of whether it is the pre-sales in RERA, whether it is the FSI issues or whatever. We're seeing a kind of, need to make best of a situation where we are really the hottest city in probably, of course the country, but far beyond. And what I also really respect is that when we reach out to people like you, your views are balanced, they have a lot of value inculcated in them. There is a certain integrity, which is why the city has been far more stable than most of these, fast growth cities. And I do think all of you will have greater responsibility as time goes down, because you have to have the spine to say things which may not be the most convenient. So this has been a spectacular panel. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking time to come here, and I'm sure the conversation will continue with the Times of India. Thank you.